Well, Scott Harris kicked off the first full day of winter meetings on Monday by answering some questions from the media. Should we be concerned with some of his answers?
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Tuesday, December 9th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, well, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome all. Happy Tuesday. Today we are going to recap the first full day of winter meetings. Always an exciting one with a lot of rumors. We'll end kind of with rumors from around the league, news and notes from around the league, Hall of Fame inductions, etc. We're also going to talk about the report that the Tigers are just lukewarm on Alex Bregman so far this offseason. We'll talk a little bit about Tatsuya Imai again, who we talked about a few weeks ago. We will spend a lot of the show talking about Scott Harris's comments. He met with the media, answered a lot of questions, and there's a lot of quotes from him making the rounds in the fan base. I want to start off by just putting a cherry on top of the Drew Anderson conversation, and that is with a salary. We actually have a contract terms. That's the word I'm looking for Drew Anderson. He signed a one-year deal with the Detroit Tigers for $7 million, and there is a club option for $10 million in 2027. I mean, that's more expensive than I thought. I'm not like, throwing a tantrum or crying about it, but it's certainly more than I expected. This really comes down to whether Drew Anderson is a Major League Baseball starting pitcher or not. Pretty much everything to do with this signing really just comes down to that. If this dude is starting every fifth day and is even like relatively productive, even if he's a number 5 in the rotation, if he takes the ball every fifth day and has a 4 to a 4.25 ERA, then he's worth, maybe even double the what he's going to end up getting paid. And it's a great deal. In the same breath, what's the confidence level that is going to happen? I understand the optics of $7 million for a dude that has barely played pro ball in America in 4 years and wasn't very productive before he left to go play ball in Asia. But starting pitchers are expensive, especially ones that throw a lot of innings. They are very expensive. And if he produces, then it's a solid move. So this is one. I know some people kind of rolled their eyes at it. I get it. Like if he gets booted from the bullpen if he gets booted from the rotation and put in the bullpen, or if he just straight up struggles and he just, isn't a very good Major League Baseball like player, then obviously this is going to be very frustrating in hindsight. But yeah, like ultimately more expensive than I thought. I guess the reason why it sounds like I'm fence sitting here with this is like seeing the terms does not change anything I already said about this move. Like they didn't sign him for $30 million a year. Like I'm not like, oh my goodness, this is an atrocity. And they didn't get him for, league minimum either. I'm not like, wow, it doesn't really matter what he does. He'll be worth it if he's just a Major League Baseball player. No, like they put their neck out there a little bit, but like $7 million for a year and the option year is completely the team's call. there's not a lot of risk here still. So like nothing really changes on what my analysis was of this situation yesterday. The only thing that does change is that this might be enough money where you kind of look around and go, not sure the Tigers are going to be super aggressive on getting another starting pitcher. And that part, if true, bothers me. Again, as I already stated yesterday, I don't want Drew Anderson to be the only starting pitcher we get all winter. Maybe I'm wrong, but I am not banking on them being very aggressive or going out and getting another, like legit every fifth day starter the rest of the winter. And that's disappointing. I still want another starting pitcher. They also still need like seemingly half a dozen relievers. And I would still like them to bring in bats. As I said yesterday, I want them to be more aggressive in the offensive market. We'll talk about that a little bit more in depth when we get to Scott Harris's comments that he made to the media on Monday. A couple small news and notes. The Tigers get a competitive balance round B pick for the upcoming draft. That's kind of cool. Not too much else to say, but they will get an extra draft pick in the competitive balance round B. So after the second round, I believe that one is, we'll have more information on that exact pick, etc. After the lottery, which is later this week, and then when draft order is completely set. Other cool news: the Tigers will play 2 exhibition games in March against Team Dominican Republic. This is super cool. The DR is consistently year in and year out, or every 4 years, whatever you want to say. Every year there is international baseball. The DR is consistently one of, if not just straight up, the best roster on the entire planet. They have not won the WBC, I believe, since 2013. But I mean, objectively, one of the 3, if not the top roster on the planet. And the Tigers will get to play a couple of exhibition games against them in the Dominican Republic, which I think is the coolest part about this. Nelson Cruz, Albert Pujols, both very involved with Team DR. Nelson Cruz, obviously one of the most notorious Tigers killers of my entire generation, surely. But has done a lot for baseball in the Dominican Republic, as has obviously Albert Pujols, almost goes without saying. These games are intended to not only obviously get the DR, prepared for international play, etc., but they also want to raise funds for these games, or at these games rather, for Dominican Red Cross. That's where a lot of the funding and the money raised will go to help support them after that tragedy. So Tigers get to be a part of that. I think that is really cool, and it's for a good cause. And hopefully it's a fun event that they can, televise and get some good, Major League Baseball can get some good media over and get some eyes on the sport and whatnot. That's always cool. So just wanted to point that out. 2 games in the DR this March. Let's talk about Scott Harris's comments to the media, which is what everyone is talking about. We'll do that right after this. First, though, got to talk to y'all about our friends over at FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, right? You see a receiver get hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. Or on Monday Night Football, you have 3 turnovers on one play. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment, live spreads, player props. You can bet next touchdown scores, anything you can think of. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. I appreciate you all so much for tuning in. Appreciate you all for making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow as we continue talking about all the news and notes from winter meetings every day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network out there. You already live your team every day. Now you can take it to the next level and go ad-free along with a bunch of other features by joining the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Tigers with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and so much more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. So go to LockedOnPodcastNetwork.com/Everydayers Club and you can pick your team to join today. Today, we talk about on this show Scott Harris's comments to the media. I've had some stuff that is nice to hear, some optimistic about some injuries, etc., and then a handful of stuff that people are not too pleased about. Okay, let's start off with some positives. Okay, Scott Harris says he believes Jackson Jobe will be pitching competitive baseball by September. That's nice to hear. I don't believe you, but it's nice to hear. Okay. I think that Tommy John is very case by case, but in general, the reason why I say that is not because I'm like trying to be a jerk or I'm just like, oh, like I don't know, like Joe can't do it or oh, like I'm certainly not a doctor. Or, oh, like he won't be ready in time because I know, Tommy John recovery. No, it's simply the fact that what's the point of bringing him back and rushing him back to be major league caliber for a month? They're going to be extremely cautious. This guy was the #1 pitching prospect in baseball at one point and is coming off Tommy John surgery and is very young. He is very important to the future of this franchise. So I think they're going to play it safe. I don't expect him to pitch in 2026, but it's nice to hear that the rehab process is going well on December 9th and, that he's at least trending in the right direction. So cannot wait until we see a fully healthy version of Jackson Jobe again. But I won't be holding my breath on that happening in 2026. Speaking of pitching, sounds like Scott Harris made a point to say that the club will look to bring in more pitching help this winter. We kind of already knew that, but nice to hear at least. Initially, Chris McCoskey of the Detroit News had said that he had said that he expects, or based on what Harris said, that he's going to attack starters and relievers to bring in. There was a comment thrown in there about how Harris doesn't expect the bullpen market to form until the new year, which was kind of a head scratcher to me because like 3 of the best relievers are already off the market. But alas, what do I know? I hope he's truthful about the starting pitching market. The interesting thing came later when some of the other beat writers started putting out the full quote that was very long. And I don't blame McCoskey for, summarizing. Certainly, Chris McCoskey, very good at his job and been doing it a long time. I found it interesting that there was more focusing on Drew Anderson being a starting pitcher, which is fine. If that's what they want to do, that so be it. Something just tells me personally that the starting pitching help at this point will be like cheaper organizational depth rather than, high-end starting pitchers. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think there's a real chance. And again, I've been wrong plenty. I'm sure I'll be wrong about plenty this offseason as well. It wouldn't shock me if Drew Anderson was the most expensive starting pitching addition this winter at $7 million. I don't see it, man. They, I think, are content with the amount of starting pitching depth they have currently in the organization. And if they want to add more, it will be waiver claims and minor league deals and, $1 and $2 million deals for guys that aren't going to be opening day starters, but can provide depth if needed at some point in the year. Scott Harris also said that the Tigers are very involved in the reliever market, according to Evan Petzold of the Freet, but also states he just can't help himself. He can't help himself. Harris said in the answer, in the quote, where he was trying to be like, yeah, we're very involved in the free agent and trade reliever market. He just had to throw in there, I want to remind people that bullpens are sometimes built through waiver claims and minor league contracts. Thanks so much for reminding me, man. I wasn't constantly reminded of that for the last 4 years. Thank you so much. He just can't help himself. Like, literally just don't say that. It's not super hard, man. Just say you're really involved in the market and move on. You don't have to comment on to what extent or what that even means. He also then was asked about the offense and said he expects most of the improvements to come from within. He then said Glaber was a big, addition, even though he wasn't a new addition. I got to be real with you. The back-to-back of some bullpens are built via waiver claims and minor league deals, then added to, I don't expect the offense to be super aggressive externally, and most of the offensive upgrades are we're planning on them coming internally. I don't blame anybody for rolling their eyes and being upset at these quotes. I really don't. The optics of that after the biggest blown lead of a division in the history of Major League Baseball are atrocious. You had the biggest divisional collapse ever, and your solution is Drew Anderson, waiver claims, and then just hoping the offense gets better with the same people. Because, regression to the mean, surely that happens. If I have to hear the phrase, we don't want to block a player again, I think I might actually lose my mind. Genuinely. We had to hear about that with, we're not going to be aggressive at third base this winter because Jace Young, right? 2 years ago. We had to hear about it with, we're hearing about it with Max Anderson. Matt, I love the dude, okay? He had a fantastic season. I hope that he hits 800 home runs in a Tigers uniform. He doesn't have a position to play defensively. He doesn't have one today. Who's blocking him? I don't want to sign a corner outfielder because I don't want to block someone. That doesn't exist. Right fielders aren't real. They're like unicorns or like I was going to say the tooth fairy, but that tooth fairy is real. Believe me, kids. Same with Santa. Very real. You know what I mean? It's like leprechauns or I don't know. I don't want to get myself in trouble, but you can just put anybody in right field. No top prospect is a right fielder coming up through the system. And if they are, it's not because of their defense. It's because they hit bombs. You have 80 million positionless defenders in the organization that can all just play right field. You're not blocking them by not signing one. You can just make somebody one. Justin Henry Malloy. You traded for him as a third baseman. He hasn't touched third base in the better part of 3 years now. You moved him to corner outfield. And that's like at the I mean, Justice Bigby, like you can go down the line, man. Heck, Max Anderson might be playing right field. It's just such a ridiculous statement to me. And it's not to say that I don't understand the concept of you don't want to sign a bunch of free agents that block your top prospects. No one's saying that the Tigers should, prevent Kevin McGonigal from playing Major League Baseball for the next 4 years by signing investing a bunch of money in all the positions he plays. Okay. But you look at what this lineup did last year. We're still talking about Winfield Perez, he mentioned by name, and like Parker Meadows, he mentioned by name. And like Winfield Perez, I love him to death. I really do. One of my favorite players on this whole roster. He's just an absolute dog and a ball player. If you have an opportunity to go get an all-star caliber bat that plays corner outfield, guess what? You do it and figure out when and where Winfield Perez plays after. At some point, we have to prioritize the Major League team, man. Oh. Okay. It's funny. I have in my show notes, don't get too worked up about it. That worked. The thing that I want to put a bow on this, okay? The thing that I really want to stress is I know I'm an idiot that just blabs on a microphone every day, right? Don't do as I say, not as I do, okay? I am not an example that, people should be following. Try not to get too worked up about it. I will try as well, because ultimately it's December 9th and nobody in baseball, none of the teams have really done anything. All the big name players are still out there. All the big name trade targets are still out there. No one's made a big move yet. So let's try, and I'm saying this mostly for myself, not talking at you. Let's try to just understand that they're quotes and nothing has or hasn't happened yet. And we'll see how the rest of the winter plays out. But golly, these are not fun or encouraging quotes to hear, to kick off what's supposed to be the busiest week of the offseason. One last set of Scott Harris quotes I want to bring up specifically was asked about Tarek Skubal. Then we'll talk about some other rumors and news and notes from day one of winter meetings. We'll do that right after this. First, though, going to talk to you all about our friends over at Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets, that's usually the hard part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch and finally gives a real advantage back to the fans when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You can pull up the app, and a layout that is so simple allows you to scroll through matchups and compare seat views all the time. There's alerts that you can get sent straight to your phone for teams and matches to make it easy to grab tickets the moment they drop instead of missing out. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event. With Game Time, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in, as always. Still have a cough drop in my mouth. Still have been coughing nonstop, literally all day. It's driving me nuts. And my voice is still, like when I talk normally, it's pretty fine. But when I get fired up about quotes on December 9th, apparently that's my vocal cords trigger. It makes them feel some type of way. Want to talk about some more quotes from the front office. Scott Harris, basically the big quote that everyone's hanging on to is he admitted, like, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't listen to offers from other teams. For as much as I was just angry about quotes from Scott Harris, in segment 2, these ones do not bother me at all. He says he doesn't believe in untouchables. I don't really either. I think that that's a close-minded way. You shouldn't close any door. You should have all avenues open when it comes to improving your team. I mean, heck, Gretzky got traded, right? Like it's. Don't look at how that worked out for Edmonton, but you get my point. So he stated like he doesn't think it's productive to speak on trade rumors to the media, which we've known about him. That's fine. But it does sound like he will at least explore and listen to any offer thrown his way. He mentioned that some are likely to happen, some are super unlikely to happen. Just because he's listening doesn't mean he's like actively shopping him or trying to get him off the team or anything. But just that no one is untouchable, and he wouldn't be doing his job if he wasn't taking again any avenue into consideration to improve the team. So I really don't care about this quote whatsoever. A lot of people were pissed off about it. I was way more upset about the ones we talked about in segment 2 than these ones. I could, like, as I've said all offseason, I can live with anything you choose as long as you consciously, actively, and actually choose it. And you don't just sit there and do nothing for the next 12 months, and that's your plan. Go all in on 26 with Skubal, extend Skubal, or trade him for a Godfather offer. I will wake up tomorrow or the day after any of those happen, no matter what. But you have to actually choose them. If we just sit here and do nothing for the next 12 months, which based on the quotes from segment 2, it sounds like is a possibility, I will be rather upset. Jim Bowden of The Athletic predicted the Tigers to sign Tatsuya Imai to a 7-year, $150 million deal. We talked about Imai, was that 2 weeks ago now? I think it was before I got sick. I would love this. That's obviously would be great. And we talked earlier about how I still want another starting pitcher. I still want bats too. But here's a secret. The Tigers have the money to do all of that. Which I know as a Tigers fan, you almost assuredly know that. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the contract is probably accurate to what he'll get. I don't think he gets that from Detroit. I think that's a pipe dream. The interesting thing with Imai is he said he didn't want to play with other. Well, not that he was like not willing to play with other Japanese players, but he said he wanted to kind of experience like the culture shock and, not have anybody to fall back on or lean on in that experience. And said he'd rather beat the Dodgers than play with them. So we'll see. The last report to come from Monday is from Evan Petzold of The Freep, our good friend here on this program. Petzold reports that the Tigers' interest in Alex Bregman is lukewarm to start the offseason, but that there is still interest there. A lot of people freaked out about this one too. This doesn't mean a whole lot to me. They aren't going to sprint over and beg him to be a Tiger the first day of the offseason, especially after what happened last year. So, look, I'm not in a front office. I have no clue. Maybe there's 5 other teams that are being super aggressive and the Tigers are just going to miss out. And that's a whole different issue if that, ends up being. But like, I don't think Bregman's signing tomorrow. Like, I think that market's probably going to take a while to develop. And just because they're lukewarm on him or not being super aggressive with him now doesn't mean that they like have no interest for him or that they don't have a game plan for how they want to attack, a contract offer with him going forward. So it's something to keep tabs on, but it's not super shocking. I'm really not too fired up about it. The Tigers front office just doesn't seem like a group that's going to outspend everyone the second that free agency opens. so that they can get someone right away. Like they seem much more like we're going to go through the negotiation battle to try to pay this player as, I guess I'll say as little as possible, but that, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases. So I'm not sure that's really a fair usage of words. Other rumors, other notes rather, Jeff Kent makes the Hall of Fame. Congratulations to him. One of the best second basemen to ever live. Is kind of still a slap in the face, I feel like, to Lou Whitaker, who has pretty significantly better career numbers across the board than Jeff Kent and wasn't even considered this year. I think that's a complete disservice, as I continue to state. But yeah, that's not to take anything away. Like Jeff Kent's a second baseman that won MVP. That's a relatively rare breed in the history of baseball. So that's not to say that he doesn't deserve it. It's just that if he deserves it, Lou Whitaker definitely deserves it. That's all. And then the only thing I want to bring up is that the Pirates are making it very clear that they offered Kyle Schwarber a contract. Somebody said it was like around 100 mil. I have no clue how accurate that is or isn't, but if that's true, that's just doing it to do it, man. Like you're just offering. I think the Pirates just really want some good PR. That's one of the worst ownership groups in sports, and I think they just want some good PR and to be able to tell people, hey, look, we offered the big guys a contract. You can't be mad at us. He didn't want to come here. Okay, well, you got outbid by $150 million, but yeah, I guess. So we'll see what happens. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow. Hopefully the voice will continue slowly day by day to improve here. I apologize, but I appreciate you guys for sticking with me here throughout. Right fielders that are listening, you know what? I apologize, right? You guys do exist and you're very important. My only point is that a lot of major league right fielders did not come up through the system as right fielders. That's all my point is you're not doing anyone a disservice by blocking. Those guys can usually play, a few different positions anyway. That's all I was trying to say. If anything, it's a compliment because you guys are just so athletic and gifted that you can play, all over the diamond. I appreciate you all so much. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. Catch you tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.